Alright. Hey kids, today another one of Malachi's auto repair videos. This is a 2003 Ford Ranger. It's got the 3-liter, but engine doesn't matter. We're doing heater core. Well, heater core is basically done now. Here's a few tips that you're going to want to know about. To do the heater core, it is on the inside. You do have to remove the dash. There is a video on YouTube showing where you can just hack your way through, and if it's a beater old truck, hey, go right ahead, do what you want to do. A more correcter way, you're going to find here, another one right there, down below, I forget where they're all at. Either way, you're going to want to loosen this thing off, and then once this AC and blower motor assembly are out, and you don't have to get them out, you just have to get them clear enough. There's another nut that's way down there. Behind this nut and behind this plastic piece, there is another nut that's on a stud. You're going to want that out. Down below, again, same thing. Now, purportedly, oh yeah, and then the last one you're going to find is right here. This one's a bare. You wouldn't know it was there. It's a little hard to see. In fact, the video really isn't showing it. But right where I'm pointing, in the middle of the truck, right behind the intake, dead center down there, there is a hole. All you'll see is a black hole in the insulation along the firewall. There's also a nut in there. They're all 11 millimeters. You take those all off, and that's going to loosen your housing on the inside. On the inside, now as you can see, I've removed everything. I really wasn't sure. I had never done a heater core on one of these, so I wasn't sure what all was going to be necessary for removal and what was not. Realistically, what I would do if it was me, remove your heater control, remove your radio, remove your heater control assembly. You're going to need this bezel out. You do not need to remove your instrument cluster, I don't believe. I removed it, turned out waste of time. Didn't need to. You will need to remove the lower knee panel and steel reinforcement plate or guard or whatever it is, and you do need to remove your steering column. Steering column is held in place by 4 13mm bolts or nuts that are on studs that hang down. They come out pretty easily. There's also your ignition switch, the plug here you need to remove, and all the plugs that are associated with your steering column. It's not that drastic. A few things down below, like your hood release and your parking brake release. This one's a manual, so you got to be careful that you're not parked on a hill, because you'll end up doing that and then starting the vehicle rolling. And that's really about it as far as your electronics. You do need all this stuff off your heater controls. It's a little bit tricky for, I believe, this one right here, this round one. It actually has 2 points of locking, one right here and one right here, and you're going to want to have them both pressed, and eventually you can work it out and it will come out. Or you can try and remove it from on top of the blower, or the on top of this heater core suitcase. That's another way of doing it. Down here, you're gonna have a couple grounds. You're gonna want to unplug this little plug right here. I don't remember what that one plugs into, but I'll figure it out shortly. And the only reason you need that clearance is so that you can pull your dash assembly out far enough. You don't really need to do anything else on the driver's side. And we're talking, you don't need to. You may want to. Now, to get the actual dash assembly out, here's where you're at. You got one bolt here. You have one bolt that's down in here. It's a little hard to see. You can see where I got it sort of threaded, or right now it's just sitting in there. It's not actually up. Otherwise you'll see the head of the bolt. You see just the threads there. There are 2 down on the driver's side, a little hard to see. See, there they are. And then here's one right there, and then below the fuse panel there is a second. They're all 13mm bolts. At that point in time, your dash assembly should come out. You should be able to get that dash assembly out in around about half an hour at the most, if you know where these are all at to begin with. Now you do if you've watched this video. There are, like I said, there are numerous other videos on YouTube on how to do this. There's a few things you might want to also do, but a lot of this harness actually stays with. Like, I unhooked the thing for the airbag plug. You don't need to unhook it, as it turns out. You don't need to have your instrument cluster out. I thought you would. There's people saying you got to undo the screws along the top here. I don't know what that was about. That's some bullshit. This panel right here, it's just a piece that just clips in. I reached in with a one of those trim tools for doors and just worked it all the way around, then used my hand and just kind of wiggled my hand in there, and it removed it completely. Sorry for the unstable video, but I really don't give a damn. Anybody who's ever watched my videos know I curse, and they're all done handheld cell by me. So, fuck it, bitches. That's how it is. It's what you get for getting free shit off of YouTube. Hope this should help somebody, I would think. Like I said, I just collected nuts and bolts and screws and everything in here, and reassembly is reversal of removal or something. For me, I just continue to set things in the trunk. All the crap, steering column. Steering column is pretty straightforward. 1 plug, 2 plug, 3 plug, 4. And just after that, only 1 plug more. Hey, I rhyme in it for the ignition switch. So that's about it. Like I said, you don't need to remove this. You will need this off. You will need your bezel around. I believe you need that off. I could be wrong. Like, you don't need to take off your door on your whole glove box, as it turns out. This boomerang piece you will need to remove. You'll need to remove both the sail panels on each side, but for the, you know, next to your clutch pedal on this side, and on the passenger side it doesn't really do nothing, but you're going to want to remove those, I believe, just for the access for the side screws. I pulled out the entire radio assembly as a bezel. There's only 2 screws holding it in from below, and it came right out pretty straightforward. So hope somebody learns something here. And as you can see, it's basically done. Once that's done, once this whole assembly is out, you pull off your, you pull out, if you got all your nuts off your firewall, you just work your suitcase off. Now, my suitcase kept snagging on, there's like a skid plate bracket. It's not a skid plate, but you know, whatever. Heat shield maybe, or something, I don't know, underneath the PCM. And it kept snagging on that, so every time I kept trying to pull it off, it just would not release. Had to work it off of that. Once it worked off, getting it back on is easier than getting it out. Once it's off, then on top of the suitcase there are 5 screws. They're 8mm, and you can unscrew. I don't know if you can even see up in there, but you can unscrew the top off of your heater core. If you've got your heater core hoses off, presumably at this point, because you would have had to. Heater core just slides right out. You can wipe it and clean it out on the inside. I didn't bother. Usually most people don't. I think that's a waste of time. Slap it in, boom. Put your 5 screws back in. Shove your suitcase in the suitcase. The whole process never leaves the passenger side wheel well. This right here just swings out. Now, if you have a complicated center console, like I did not undo the shifter, I did not remove this trim piece, which just kind of floats here on this truck. I don't know if maybe it's supposed to be bolted down, maybe it ain't. Just the way it was when I started on the job. So I did not have to remove any of that or do anything. And it is done, and it is done correctly, or arguably correctly. So no hacking, no slashing. You can probably be done with this job if knowing what I know right now, and if I were just to hustle, or have a second person to frickin' help me, I could probably start to finish and do this in maybe 2 hours. Give or take, maybe a little more time to add the coolant and bleed out the system, but pretty straightforward. There's a pinch bolt on your steering column. that's got to be done. That's a 10 millimeter head. I don't know what the size of the actual bolt is. Actually, I believe it is a 10 millimeter bolt. Maybe it's an 8. I don't freaking know. Yeah. Once again, peace out, bitches. Or stop it. Who's got my penis?